Hey guys, Goemon Ronan here. So I've been a request has been made of me to be a little more careful about what I say in my videos about relationships and divorce and stuff like that. And those things are fair. Um, you shouldn't make assumptions about what you think people know about other people, and I was doing so a bit. So first off, an apology there. I am, however, not going to stop doing videos on this subject. I'm just going to be a little more careful about how I go about it. Um, and I was thinking that there's always a point where I don't know how women perceive this. I would love you guys' input and information. I don't think any women watch my channel really, but if there are some women out there who are indeed watching this and are going to watch more than 4 minutes of it, uh, uh, I just think that a lot of times there is there is a noticeable, perceivable moment, and you usually take note of it, even if it was small, where the relationship makes a small change for the first time, or you realize that you aren't exactly as compatible with this person as you perhaps thought you were. Now, I'm going to quote Star Trek here, Jean-Luc Picard. That amount of control is an illusion, okay? And to a certain extent, the amount of compatibility between two people that generally, like most men at least, are looking for is just, I think, as I've discussed in my last few videos, not really achievable. It's also an illusion. We men and women are not in a relationship necessarily for the same things. Maybe a few of the same things, but those things are not the same priority for her as they are for you. You might know a woman who is, for example, really horny and like really seems like she likes sex all the time. I guarantee she can do without it. She doesn't need it. Uh, and as a guy, neither do you. You just have it in your head that you do. Um, so uh, there's there, but the point is you almost need to worry more if you're going into the relationship and things seem too perfect, because after you've been through a few, you're going to be going, okay, when's it going to happen? That moment's going to come where I'm going to go, oh, she's not perfect. And a friend of mine, Brian, was telling me recently that that the real disappointment in a breakup is because they didn't meet the expectations of the dream that you had. And that can work on both ends too. Obviously, I didn't meet my exes, um, or perhaps even my soon to be exes uh, expectations, um, to a certain extent, and that made her grow disappointed in me. Now, she probably took notice of that more than I did, uh, But there is always it seems to me a definable moment, and it's usually always it's almost always a little thing like a like a habit you can't stand, or slurping their coffee or soup, or just, I mean, it could be something like that, but it could also be something major that you have a huge problem with. Now you're kind of at a really difficult point right there, right? Because then what do you do? Now, I mean, as a younger person, like in my 20s and going through relationships, well, I tried my best to ignore and look past that, right? And just kind of carry on in the relationship as best I could. Now, as I've grown older, well, it might still be a thing that I don't point out, but I start to withhold things like sex. If I don't like you as an individual, or a lot of the things you're doing, or like the decisions that you are making, if you're just kind of not that it, I'm not so driven by the physical needs of sex anymore that I might not want to have sex with you if you kind of have those attitudes. Um, and I think these little moments that we all end up noticing that I'm talking about, they're really frustrating because, like I said, usually you kind of, like I said, you're in a difficult position because you have to decide: do I push on with this, or do I just go, I can tell this just isn't going to work out. Especially if there's already like a 10-year age gap, and there's already one or two things that are driving you nuts as the older person. Uh, that might be a thing that you want to turn off. What I usually do in those situations is give it like another 6 or 8 weeks and just kind of observe things and see if I notice that again, or anything else. Okay, and again, if you notice these things, then you're in a position where you have to decide: am I going to pursue this and ignore it? Am I going to pursue this and point it out, or am I going to just am I going to just drop this? I suppose there's always the extent of like half dropping it, right? You have to be careful with the half drop because you're making a big assumption that this other person is going to be only interested in a physical relationship. And sometimes that's what people need, and that's great. And some people can do that. I find it difficult to maintain a physical relationship with someone I have no emotions for. It's kind of difficult for some reason. I haven't exactly hit the nail on the head as to why either, but it is frustrating. Um, so, yeah, I wonder if any of you men and women out there have noticed, that have been through a few relationships, could leave the thing that you noticed in the comments. Like, what was the thing that tipped you off, and how subtle was it? Because I mean, I usually find these things are like just sort of things that pop up in passing. Now, the other interesting thing is sometimes that person realizes that you noticed that. You can kind of tell that they went, he took note of that thing I just did, right? Now, part of the reason that I'm saying things like this is because this is important to remember, even in relationships that you've been in for a little while. There are certain ways that humans use language. For example, we use certain pronouns in conversation to set our significant others at ease, right? If we're dealing with people that we work with and they've shown us something cool, we tend to use certain language when we're describing that situation to our spouse or SO to kind of, put them at ease, right? If that language changes for some reason, or the pronoun usage changes to something more definitive, there's a reason for that, and you should take note of it, and perhaps ask questions and investigate a little bit. Sometimes your significant other is putting things out there for you to notice, so that like you bite on this thing and it can be done or kind of carry forward to its natural conclusion. I think I think it can all stem from that one tiny little moment. I'm remembering, a handful of things about every person that I've gone out with, actually. Thinking about this one, the one before that, the one before that, and I can think of a handful of things about each of them that sort of was left kind of not the best taste in my mouth right at that moment. Sometimes these things aren't a big deal either. Like on the surface, it doesn't seem like that big a thing, but in the long term, it can be a little more serious issue that needs to be addressed. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm trying to make my videos shorter, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this one there. It's more of like an introspective, just a thought, and a little bit of a rant. I hope that that was useful to you guys. Goemon Ronan, signing out.